What the heck is that thing on my deer blind? Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So you guessed it, this is a Starlink, and it is a Starlink Mini to be exact, and it is on the roam plan. So I just picked up this dish a couple of weeks ago, and I believe the dish was $5.99, and then I signed up for the monthly roam plan, which is $50 a month for 50 gigs of internet. And the nice thing about that roam plan is I can pause the service at any time. So just like right now, this is that wonderful time of the year, mid-November. I'm right at the start of my 10-day rutcation here. So if you're like me, you're gonna be spending a lot of time out in the woods, hanging out in blinds like this, waiting for a big buck to stroll by. And so if you're like us down here on our hunting property, it is a black hole of cellular service down here. We get absolutely no signal anywhere on the property. The phone sits in SOS 99% of the time. There is like one hill up on the road where if you're lucky, you might be able to squeeze a text through. But other than that, pretty isolated down here. And I know what you're saying, that's part of the idea, Wade. You're gonna be getting away from work. You don't want all those distractions, and I totally get that. That's one of the things I enjoy most about hunting is somewhat that isolation. It's almost meditative. You get away from work, you get away from the phone, all those distractions and things, and you just get to reflect. And I like that. Some of my best ideas, some of my most creative thinking comes from when I'm hunting. And so you're probably going, then why the heck do you want to put a Starlink Wi-Fi on your deer blind? And so to that note, so since we don't get cellular signal down here, it's incredibly hard to stay connected. And in today's society, it's become really important to stay connected for a lot of various reasons, safety being one of them, just staying in touch with loved ones. For instance, like down here, if I get a deer and I'm gonna be a couple hours late getting home, I'm sure my wife would appreciate knowing that. And a lot of times she's just left up in the air wondering what the heck I'm doing down here. And then also, if we're gonna be spending all day sits in the deer blind, it is kind of nice to have Wi-Fi once in a while so I can, you know, catch up on text, emails, and things when things aren't moving around. It's kind of nice to stay connected from that sense. So that's why I got this, and plus it's kind of fun to play around with. And I've been testing some things at home with it too, as like a backup Wi-Fi. But the nice thing about this is its portability. Literally, I can just throw everything I need for this in a backpack, take it to the deer blind with me, and have hours of high-speed internet access out here. It's really incredible technology. So I'll show you a couple of things on here, and then we'll kind of show you what it can do. Okay, so here it is. This is the Starlink Mini. As you can see, it's an incredibly small dish. I'm using the included pole mount adapter that comes with the Starlink, and then I picked up this mount on Amazon. It's got this three-legged base with these strong magnets. So knowing that we had steel blinds, I knew that the magnetic mount would work good. Now one thing on that you notice, just due to the spacing between the ribs, this leg ended up on top of the rib. So I could, you know, put some spacers so it stands up high enough to get over the top of that rib. But this thing's pretty solid. It's not really going anywhere. And, you know, really the dish is not big enough to catch any wind. So I'm not worried about this going anywhere. The nice thing about this mount though is it's got that dual ball joint system in there, so I can loosen this and then I can tilt and pitch the dish exactly as needed. And in the Starlink app, it can kind of walk you through. So it aligns perfectly with the satellites and gives you the highest speed possible there. And then all that's coming out of the dish is this little low voltage DC power cable. So that's all that's powering the dish. There's a little status light right there that's blinking. If you are interested, on the inside of here as well is an RJ45 Ethernet port. So you could hardwire into this and either hardwire into it with a laptop or, you know, plug your home router into it even and use it as a backup internet plan at home as well there. So a lot of options with these little Starlink Mini. One of the differences between the Starlink Mini and say like their previous generations of Starlink standards is not only is the satellite receiver in this device, but the local Wi-Fi router is all integrated into this dish. There's no two components. In the previous versions, you know, you had the dish that you would put outside and then a separate cable that would connect the Wi-Fi router that you would put inside. But that's what makes this a great portable unit, is it's all included in here in a nice tiny package. So with that, we will step inside the blind and I will show you how everything's connected in there. Okay, we are inside the blind, and that Starlink dish is literally mounted on the other side of the roof right here. I've got that power cable just kind of coming in through the roof, and down here it's coiled up. This is actually like a 6.5 foot cable. The one that comes with it is about 30 foot, and I knew that was going to be way too much for my needs. So I just picked this shorter one up on Amazon. I'll put a link to all these items down in the description so you can find those later. So we've got that DC cable coming in here, and it is actually going into this. This is actually a car jump starter pack. So this is the GOOLOO GT4000. Again, like I said, these are designed to be, you know, those portable jump starters. But the really cool thing about this is it's also a 24,000 milliamp hour battery pack. So on the side there, you notice, you know, we've got the 5-volt DC jack, but you can also plug in USB-A, USB-C, and other things and use it as a battery pack. And the nice thing about the GOOLOO one here is that it's got this readout. So I can see right now that the Starlink running idle is drawing about 7-8 watts of power. It will use upwards of 40 when it's first turning on, but they're a fairly low power utilization device. And it's nice, I can always keep an eye on my battery charge here. I have run this on the Starlink in my driveway solid for 4 hours, and that's when the battery gave out. So that kind of gives you an idea of the run time on the Starlink with this. However, in the deer blind here, I'm probably going to get a little bit longer than that, and the reason so is you may have noticed outside the blind I had a solar panel on the outside wall, and so you can kind of see my solar setup here. I've got a battery down there, and then there was the solar controller here. I've got some USB devices coming up here. So actually this USB-C that's coming into the GOOLOO is actually delivering power into the GOOLOO, and then I'm taking it back out via that DC connection there. So it's actually kind of like trickle charging my GOOLOO while it's powering the Starlink there. You might be asking, why don't I just power the Starlink from my solar? And you know, that's an excellent question. So I put the solar panels in these blinds just a little over a year ago, and I'll put a link to that video here as well. So if you want to see more about the solar install on these blinds, I've got a link to that. But those solar panels are only 25 watt solar panels. When I put these solar panels in, you know, a year or so ago, I never had any intentions of running a Starlink internet system because they didn't have the Starlink Mini like they do now. So if I had to do it over again today, I would probably put, you know, at least a 50 watt panel on the outside so I could natively power the Starlink. So for right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm using that GOOLOO starter pack. It's not bad. It's kind of a multi-purpose tool. You know, you can jumpstart your pickup or power your Starlink off of it. So kind of nice there. But I'm going to pop over to my phone here. Okay, so I've got my phone sitting here on the shelf in the blind, and I just ran a speed test using the Starlink app. And so I can see this test on the right-hand side. So this is representative of how fast the Starlink dish is connecting with the satellites. So I'm getting 180 megabits per second download speed and 29 megabits per second upload. And then the reading on the left is how fast my phone is communicating with the Starlink dish on the roof of the blind here. So I'm getting 143 megabits per second down and 311 megabits per second up there. And again, this is an all steel blind, so we've got some steel to go through there. But all in all, those speeds are really good. I mean, that's better than a lot of people get from their home internet service provider. And I'm way out here in the middle of nowhere in a deer blind running off of a battery pack and able to stay connected at high speeds here. So again, you get about 4 hours of runtime on that battery pack. But again, you can shut it off from here too. I can just turn off the battery pack and turn on the Starlink when I want to run it. But otherwise, it's a nice way to have some connectivity out here in no man's land. I know it's been such a struggle just doing some basic communications, even if there's a group of us out here hunting to be able to text back and forth if one of us got one or needs help tracking one or something like that. That communication piece is so huge anymore, it's tough to be away from it. Even though it does us a lot of good to disconnect. I enjoy the disconnected part, but there's definitely some times we need to be connected. That's all we got for this one. If you like these videos, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned to Husker Hunting. Have a good one, folks.